Hello and welcome along to another end of season review from this Dorking Wanderers story with me, Daniel. It's the end of season 4 and today we'll be reflecting on our performance this season, going through the awards, reacting to our player of the season vote from last year, setting a new one for this season's squad of course, looking at our squad for the long term over the summer as it looks like we'll finally have a transfer budget for the first time, and we're also going to take a little look at the medical centre today as this is the first season we've really needed to keep an eye on it. But firstly, a massive thank you to everyone who supported the series so far and followed along for our first professional season. If you did enjoy it, please do put a thumbs up on the video, and if you've missed any of the stories so far, then click back on the eye above to catch up with the playlist. You'll be able to go back to the very start of this series and see all the brilliant moments we've had along the way. There's also a link to all of our other FM20 content up there, as well as the matchday vlogs from the podcast I'm a part of, and I can't thank you enough for giving them all a try. It really does make such a difference. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe for daily FM20 content from 2 long-term stories. This one with Dorking every other day at 4:30, and on the days in between we've got a head coach series, which is a journeyman story combined with a director of football challenge. But today we're focused on the end of season 4 with Dorking, which of course finished in brilliant mid-table mediocrity, something we would have certainly taken at the start of the season, and again we've probably excelled above expectations. We've come back one day after the season finished. That's because we've got our transfer budget to look at. You can see it's the one message waiting to be read there, and we're also 2 years ahead of the club vision schedule again, so I'm sure that'll be reset for the start of next season. We'll have a look at the update in our transfer special in a couple of days. That one will be on New Year's Eve in fact, so our transfer special to take us into the new year, and then a channel update coming on New Year's Day. But before we go and have a look at our squad and do our usual end of season parts, if you haven't seen it yet then click back to see the previous ones. You'll be able to see the way we shape our squad for a summer, how we prepare for a transfer window, and this year it's going to be quite a big one, as after settling down in League 2 we've probably got to revolutionise the squad a bit. So let's see what the transfer budget is, as that's going to make such a difference. The wage budget is 39 grand and a transfer budget of 6 figures. That's something we weren't expecting. 120 grand we've got to spend there, although we'll probably convert it to wages and use it on loans. If we have a look at the finances, not a great condition for the club to be in, but of course they get a lot of payments at the end of the season, so that's going to take us back into the black, and hopefully we'll be okay for the start of the year. We've got 20 grand left on the wage bill, so we can start to offer League 2 wages now, but I'm eager not to go too far ahead with that, as we're still only just a settled side, and we could yet get drawn into relegation battles in the future. So I'd rather stick to a modest budget for a couple more years, try and get young players through and sell them on for bigger fees. It's not something we've been able to do too successfully yet, but if we stay in this league for a couple more years, I'm sure our reputation will gradually build. But let's go and have a look at the squad now we've done that. We'll be able to go and see which ones are going to stay with us. We've got a lot of work to do before the summer goes on, so let's go through this squad and we'll be back in a minute with the ones we want to get rid of. We'll also leave it a couple of weeks too. We'll come back after we've had the messages for the end of season awards. We'll run through those to see if it changes our mind, and we'll talk about the players that we're planning to sell. We'll probably have a lot of trialists in by then too, so another thing we can look forward to, and we'll go for the highest quality ones first, knowing that they might be out of our wage bracket. Well, we're back just over 2 weeks later. We're going to have a look at the end of season awards. Matthew Smith, no surprises, he's player of the year, the Lone Star. A bit of a concern as he's the one we're certainly going to lose next year. As it stands, he's leaving Derby out of contract, but they are offering him a new deal, and I'd imagine at that point he'll be earning a lot more, and we'll have absolutely no chance of keeping him. Then Aaron Presley in second. I'm a bit surprised by that one. Had a decent season, but he didn't score a huge amount of goals. And Terrell Whittaker down in third place, despite scoring 17 from his 36 starts. He's been a good player again, but he's not the best at this level. He has been threatening the goal scoring charts in every league he's played, but his star rating suggests he shouldn't be up there. Cameron Archer, the third striker, got goal of the season. We really need a bit of quality to add to those three. And then Kieran Jones, the best free agent signing. Of course he was. He's been a really good player, and I've got no problems with him being in the side again next year. Matthew Smith, young player of the season. Again, he's been an absolute stalwart for this team, but he's going to be leaving us in the summer, and he's going to be the hardest shoes to fill in this squad. So the season review suggests that we've done well. We were expected to avoid relegation, and we've got ourselves up into the top half, albeit just snuck it in 12th place at the end after a good run in the last final month. And the board have also decided to delay the stadium expansion. We're required to do it as we go into League 2. They're going to leave it for another season where they will have to do it, and it's probably just for financial reasons. So that means we're going to have to protect our transfer budget too. We don't want the club to suddenly go into loads of debt, and we don't want to be forced into selling young stars, so I think we have to look after our money for now. But either way, a pretty decent season. I don't think any of that's changed my plans for the year. There's no real surprises in that side, a lot of performers that we expected to do well, and we've also had one disaster with our first summer signing, so we'll go and take a look at that before we view the squad. If we go to the transfers, we agreed a deal with Rory Feely. The right back's done a good job since coming on loan from Accrington in January. He's a really versatile player as well. For £9,000 we thought what a fantastic deal, so we've agreed it. He's going to join us on the 9th of June, and now he's out for 5 to 7 months. Damaged cruciate ligaments, his physicals are going to decline hugely, stamina's already dropped below 10, and his stats are going to go down massively, and he's also not going to be part of this team until Christmas. So let's hope the rest of the signings are better than that. We'll of course look at those in the next episode, and we're going to have a look through our squad in a moment. We've also got some trialists in to look at too. Okay, so here's the squad screen. I've hidden all the trialist and the loan players. The only ones that you'd add to this are possibly Fabio Lopez. If we need him, we can loan him in again. And we've also got Rory Feely, of course, but he's going to be injured till Christmas, so it's irrelevant. As always, we've selected the players that we want to leave the club, whether that be on loan or permanent deals. And the ones that are left are going to make up the squad for next year. And you can see that's a pretty small list that's remaining. We've got 12 players left after the ones we've highlighted. Although Jake Gallagher's on there, he'll stay at the club too. But he's not going to be in our first 22 players. He's just there for the mentoring group and to be a good presence on the training ground. So probably the most surprising of the ones we want to let go is Ellis Yandolo, the left winger. He's really not settled in this year, got a very average rating, and next season we also want to go back to wide midfielders. So as a result, I want to sign a proper left and right midfielder, not worry about having advanced wingers. We need to protect our back four a bit as we were shipping goals for fun this year, and that's probably the best way of doing it. Yandolo's not been a great performer anyway. So he's going to go on a transfer list and we'll probably try and move him on. Next is Manny Cook, the youngster. He's going to go out on loan. We've improved his personality slightly. He's training well every week now, so he should develop with football, and we'll give him a year to go and prove himself elsewhere and hopefully get in a big striker to replace him. Next is Kevin Kavanagh, the young left winger. Again, he's an advanced winger. We need to get him out on loan. He needs a season of football now with his fairly professional personality, and we need to sign a more defensive left midfielder who can help our fullbacks out next year. Then next is William Hondermark. I'd happily keep him as the fourth central midfielder, particularly with Matt Smith leaving the club, but he wants to go. He's been unhappy, needs to start more games, and we can't begrudge him the move, so we'll put him on a transfer list and see if anyone wants to snap him up. Next is Ethan Vaughan, the right back. Just because he's not developed quite as much this year, he's professional, he's been working hard, but he's not really getting any better. We'll keep him if we can't get in a second new fullback to replace Feely, but if we can, he's going to be going out on loan just to get himself some football at 21 years of age, hopefully help him reach that potential. Then 4 more to go. The first is Josh Georgie. Wants a big wage increase when he's out of contract in the summer. We're not willing to give it for a 2-star player, and he hasn't got the potential to get much better. He's been a good servant for us. He's played a lot of games, 107 league appearances in the end, but he's going to be leaving us this summer. A versatile player for a non-league club. Riley Harbottle's the next one on the list. 76 league appearances for Dorking. Crucial to us last season as we got promoted from the National League and from the National League South the year before, but he's just not good enough for this level at League 2, and he's been overtaken by 3 other centre-halves. Only made 2 league appearances in the end, did a decent job when he was called upon, but again a non-league player who will put on a transfer list and allow him to go and get football elsewhere. And then finally another one who wants to leave himself, Sam Ramsbottom, the backup keeper. Not good enough for this level, but we would have happily had him as our reserve, but unfortunately he wants to leave the club, so we're going to have to let him go. It does mean we'll need another keeper next year, and we'll try and get one who's an upgrade on Grant Smith, but of course we don't know that that's possible with our wage restriction. We're certainly not getting a good keeper for this price. And then last on the list is someone who'll be staying at the club, Jake Gallagher, who's 1.5-star ability, but he's not going to be considered in our first 22, so we need to have 4 central midfielders as well as him. He's a decent player. If he needs to play the odd game in the leasing.com trophy, for example, we've got absolutely no trouble with that, but he's not someone we want to consider for the first team. We just want him round because he's a leader at the club. So that's about what we're left with. 12 players remaining, possibly 1 or 2 loanees, so it should be a busy summer transfer window, though of course if we can't upgrade in all the positions within our wage structure, we will have to change our mind with some of these. So I'm not going to take you through the scouting process again. You know how we bring in try lists. We're going to go through that process throughout the summer. We've already got quite a few in fact. And then when we come back in our transfer special on New Year's Eve, you'll be able to see how many players we've replaced. But as we've reached the midway point, it is time for our player of the season vote. And let me first give you the results from last year. No surprises whatsoever. The season 3 winner was Terrell Whitaker. 26 goals in 47 National League appearances. Only 38 of those starts as well. He won by a landslide with over 70% of the vote, and a deserved winner in my books. It was pretty much a dead rubber from the start. But this year is a bit more of an interesting one. We put all the players in selection info order. You've obviously seen who the fans have gone for this season. We'll bring in the loanees and try lists again, just so you can see them. We're not worried about star ability, but to compare their appearance levels for this year. So if we put them in average ability order, the top of the list is Matthew Smith. He's going to be in the player of the season vote. Of course, again, Whitaker and Presley have to be considered. The two strikers that got to double figures this year, and then the surprise of the season was Fabio Lopez, a really strong performer over on that right wing. So they're the 4 players I've selected. Sam Sherrin was worth a notable mention. He had a really decent season as well. 6.98 coming in halfway through the year. If he played a few more games, I probably would have put him in there. But I will leave another, so you can let me know down in the comments if you don't think any of those 4 deserve it, and then let me know who you think should get the award. If not, please cast your vote in the eye above, and let me know why you've selected who you have. And that just leaves us with 2 things to do. Firstly, we're going to have a quick look at the medical centre, just because I want to show you how we've had to use it this year, albeit our use of it is fairly vague and brief, but it is just a couple of little tips I use, and you can follow them if you wish to as well. Then finally, we will go and look at the end of season across the country, see who's been winning all the leagues and cups. We do it every year just to keep an eye on the footballing world, so you'll be able to see who's been winning this year as well. We're going to have a look at the medical centre first though, a quite interesting bit for us this season. It's one of the newest features that's been developed over the last couple of years, and this season due to injuries we've had to use it a bit more. So this first screen, the overview and risk assessment, which you can also see here as well. We use this quite a lot when we've got players around the 90% mark, otherwise we don't use it at all. So sometimes when you've got players on 90% condition before a match, you're umming and ahhing whether to play them or not. It's always my magic number, 90%. I don't really worry about the sharpness too much. That's something we can use if we need to make substitutions. But at 90%, some players can be marked as tired, some can be lacking match fitness, some can just be listed as match fit, and we don't really have an understanding of what that means, how likely they are to get injured, whether they need a rest from training. So this is the screen that we can find that out from by having a look to see what their load is. You can get whether they're an injury risk or not based on their current fitness. You get a little reminder of their match load, how much they've played in the last couple of weeks. Sometimes we forget that when we're going through games every 3 days, and we can also look at their training load as well. Our assistant manager should be adjusting that, as we do have it set to do so during the season. If their condition's in the 70s, they train half as much, and it's very light or no gym work if they're in the 60s or below. So we try to get players back to fitness pretty quickly, but of course that can impact development on youngsters. So on the overview screen, you get the injury susceptibility. That's the most important one at busy times of the year. You can just have a look to see, are they likely to get an injury, and that's normally what I base my selection on. So if they're 90% and match fit, but then it says they're high risk of injury, I might just leave them on the bench for the game. Whereas if it says they're actually tired at 90%, but their injury susceptibility is low, then I'll probably still give them a little bit of a risk in that game, knowing I've just got to take them off for the last 15 minutes or so. If they're not at risk of injury, then it doesn't matter if they're a bit tired, particularly when we've got 2 games in 3 days over Christmas, where everyone's going to be tired and our best players are going to be unavailable, so we have to take a gamble and play them if they're low risk. But the other interesting screen is the injury history one. That shows us how long players have been out for, and then the season summary shows us what percentage they've missed. Of course, we've just clicked over for the new season here. Rory Feely's going to be right at the top of the chart next season too, but it gives us an insight as to who's missing what. Players that pick up little 1 or 2 day injuries, you often think, oh, it's only a short injury, we're not too worried about that. But if they get 5 or 6, that can accumulate over the year, and it shows you how much time they've missed in all. So Fabio Lopez was a really good example last year. Had 1 2-week injury and quite a few little muscle knocks, but ended up missing 6 or 7 weeks of the season. They're the little things we have to take notice of that you probably won't remember. Normally we only look and see who's had a long-term injury. We definitely don't want to get them, they must be injury prone, but players with a lot of short-term injuries can fall into that category too, so this is a really good screen for keeping track of that. I don't do anything wonderful or detailed with it, but it's just a couple of tips I use to try and keep up to date with the squad, see who might be at risk or we're losing for a few weeks of the season, and who might be injury prone, or what positions even we need a better replacement in. So that's it in terms of our plans for the summer today and the features that we're going to focus on in this episode. I really did hope you enjoyed it. If you did put a thumbs up on the video, it really does make such a difference to the performance, and please have your say in the player of the season vote in the eye above. I really do appreciate the interaction with the series. The final thing we're going to do as always is go and have a look at who won the competitions of this season, so for that we're going to skip ahead a couple of months and we'll be back once we get to the start of July so we can see who won all of the domestic trophies. Well, we're back on the screen we always start with. That's the English Premier League. Marcus Rashford, top scorer, 23 goals for him. Seems to be playing pretty well this season. Mainly used as a winger, but still scoring big goals. Florin Andone's up there as well. The 30-year-old Romanian from Brighton, who finished down in 13th place. A very bizarre season in the Premier League, but either way, they're all doing well. Liverpool are champions, their first title in nearly 35 years. Not bad going for them, the first of the series. 6 points clear of last season's champion City. Chelsea up there in third and Arsenal make the top 4. Manchester United finished 5th, but they're still in the Champions League for next season, so I'm guessing they must have won the Europa League or Champions League. We'll go and have a look at those competitions in a minute. Tottenham completing the usual top 6, Palace getting in 9th place as well. They're in the Europa League next season too, and West Ham getting relegated to the Championship. That's not happened since the mid-2000s, a real disappointing season for them. They're joined by Watford and Swansea in the second tier next year. Let's go and see who they'll be up against. Well, Huddersfield and Burnley, 2 recent Premier League sides promoted. They're joined by Hull via the playoffs. Charlton, Rotherham and Accrington going back down. The club Rory Feely's leaving to join us, of course. Norwich were also in the playoffs, but they were unfortunately losing out. And that's a pretty unsurprising Championship table, though we'd expect West Ham to be top next year. I'm just seeing who that is up front for Sheffield United. Thought it might have been Javier Hernandez for a minute, but it wasn't. It's a younger striker from Colombia, so that's not quite as surprising. If we go down to League One, let's see who's been getting on well there. Doncaster promoted via the playoffs. Nottingham Forest, the story of this save so far, they won the league to bounce back to the Championship, and they're joined by my beloved Luton Town, who are promoted as runners-up back to the Championship. So Nottingham Forest, of course, have been the tale of this series. Every year we've had to focus on them. The first season they won the FA Cup from the Championship. The second season they, of course, played in the Europa League in the second tier. The third season they were then relegated down to League One, and this year they're promoted back as champions. Going down from League One, Bolton back to League Two, Burton, Scunthorpe and MK Dons as well. No real surprises again at that level, though Ipswich and Sunderland still languishing in mid-table. Sheffield Wednesday down there as well, they didn't make the playoffs. A bit of a disappointing season for those three, but let's go and move on to our league, League Two, and focus on the rest of the division instead of us. Plymouth won the playoffs despite finishing 7th. We were only finished 9 points behind them in the end. Wickham, of course, our final day opponents, they snuck up in 3rd. Blackpool champions, Chesterfield 2nd. Back-to-back promotions for Chesterfield. They won the National League narrowly against us last year, and they finished 2nd in League Two this season, taking them all the way up to League One. Cambridge and Yeovil relegated. They've both been down there for most of the season. Dagenham made a great late escape. They survive in the Football League. Down to the National League where we were last year. Let's see who's been getting on down there. Stevenage champions, York finishing 3rd. They were promoted via the playoffs though. A few other clubs up there missing out. The likes of Swindon and Orient, who are the bigger names. Our Kettering side from the head coach, they're in 12th place in the National League doing well, and getting relegated there's no real surprises. Macclesfield again struggling with their financial troubles. Let's go down to the regional leagues then. 2 more to go in the English pyramid. Halifax won the National League North, Hereford runners up and promoted via the playoffs. Tamworth relegated alongside Kings Lynn, they're joined by Stratford and Scarborough Athletic. Kings Lynn and Tamworth perhaps a bit of a surprise, but otherwise there's no real massive shocks. And then let's go go down to the National League South. Maidenhead and Woking promoted this season. Again, the second place side winning the playoffs, which is what we quite like to see at this level. But at the other end, there's a bit of a disaster for us. Two former sides we enjoyed managing on the channel, one from FM18, one from FM19, both getting relegated out of this league. Bognor Regis finishing bottom. They were the first ever side we managed in the head coach on this channel, and in Slough, a side we managed in FM19, they've been relegated narrowly in 21st. Joined by Oxford City and Maidstone, again three pretty big clubs at this level, all of them playing further down the pyramid next year. We'll see if any of them bounce back in the next couple. And then finally onto the domestic and European Cups. The FA Cup was won by Crystal Palace. That's how they got into the Europa League. Beating Arsenal in the final, a good result for them. Always good to see one of the underdogs get in the cup. Into the League Cup, that was Liverpool, the league title holders. A double for them as they beat Manchester City in the final. And then a Community Shield won by Manchester City. The Leasing.com trophy against two under-23 sides. That will have been a disastrous final at Wembley. Should we go and see what the attendance was for that one? Just to see how realistic it was. I'm not sure where I can find that information. I'm trying to find the stats, but there's nothing there. I can't see it listed on this screen. It's even worse it was a 0-0. Maybe the EFL are hiding the attendance from me. Probably don't want to show it off too much. I can't imagine it was a very good one, but I cannot find the attendance anywhere. Let's see if we can go back a screen. Can we find it anywhere at all? If you know, let me know down in the comments. I want to find out how many people turned up. Finally to the FA Trophy, that was won by Sutton United. They finished 8th in the National League, just missing out on the playoffs, but either way a good side, they got their trophy win. A good day out for them at Wembley too. Let's go and have a look at the Champions League and Europa League to finish. We've of course got the new Europa Conference too. The Champions League won by Manchester United. Again Arsenal losing in another final. Manchester United finished 5th in the Premier League, and again Marcus Rashford top scorer. So now we've solved the mystery of how they've qualified for the Champions League, making it 5 teams getting in from England. Manchester City winning the Europa League, completing the double for English sides, and then the Europa Conference was won by Aberdeen. What a surprise that is. Scottish football back on the map. Aberdeen winning the 3rd trophy in Europe, only finished 5th in the Scottish Premiership as well. Their key players worth 6 million is a really strong central midfielder, so Scottish football's well and truly back on the map. They had a brilliant season in Europe this year. So as always, that's the basic review, but let me know if I missed anything down in the comments, any surprises or shocks that stand out, or just any clubs you want me to have a look at, and we'll incorporate that into next season's review of course. We'll be back with another end of season special. But a massive thanks for watching this one and following along for another season as always. I really do appreciate your support greatly. If you enjoyed it, please do put a thumbs up on the video. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of our campaign. Where else do we need to improve the squad next season? Are there any areas you disagree with me on? Are there anyone I shouldn't be letting go? Or are there some others you think I should be putting on the transfer list too? Subscribe to the channel for daily FM20 content from my 2 long-term stories. This one will be back on Tuesday, New Year's Eve for the transfer special. The head coach will be back as normal tomorrow. And then on New Year's Day we've got something slightly different, a New Year's special with the channel update. We'll talk about what we've got planned for 2020, some of the other games we might be playing as well, and there's some interactive stuff in there too, so please do check it out and let me know your thoughts. But a massive thanks for watching this one and your continued support of the series as always. I really do appreciate it, and I hope to see you next time for our transfer special on New Year's Eve. It's surely going to be an exciting one, as there's plenty of work to be done in the window.